Hello everybody, this is Omar, your audio amigo, here with another video for you. Today we're looking at the highly anticipated Tangzu Wan'er Studio Edition. This is going to be the first episode in my new Thrifty Tunes series, where I focus on the sub $50 IEM market, trying to find some good, some bad, and some weirdly interesting in that price bracket. On the table today, Tangzu Wan'er Studio Edition. This is a retuned sort of alternate version of the original Tangzu Wan'er. They're priced identically on Tangzu's website, $21 each, and they're in the very crowded sub $25 space. So let's start with non-audio. What's in the box? You get the IEMs themselves. You get this lovely sort of white silvery cable that matches. You get this, quite frankly, really beautiful looking cleaning cloth, double-sided, so you don't have to worry about ordering the color that you want. And you get some ear tips, which I was a fool and did not show in the unboxing. So in the box, they come with standard silicone wide bore medium-sized tips. And then in the little baggie, you get 3 more sets of wide bore. You get them in large, small, and extra small. And then you get an additional 3 sets of narrow silicone tips. You get small, medium, and large. And it does not come with this case. I just use this to show the tips off. So overall, pretty good box. The art is amazing, and the accessories, especially with the cleaning cloth, are, I would say, above average for this price range. We'll start talking about the cable. So we've got standard 3.5mm on this end, and QDC on this end. Not my favorite connector, but what is interesting about these is these memory hooks. If you saw my unboxing video, I didn't quite know what to think of these, and to be honest with you, for the first day or two, I really hated these. They were causing a bit of microphonics from the stiffness, and I just really did not care for these. But after a couple of days, they kind of won me over. They're just kind of convenient. No matter what your ear shape is, you'll bend it to the angle or shape that you want, and they'll just stay that way. And it's really useful if you have small ears or really big ears. And as far as the microphonics go, you can just bend it a certain way, and it mostly goes away. The Y-split is this nice metal arrangement with the Tangzu branding on it. And the chin cinch moves up and down easily. And like I said in the unboxing video, will stay put if you go for a walk. And I did take these for a walk, and they behaved very, very well. Overall, cable is really nice. Not a fan of QDC, like I said, but honestly, cable's good enough that I wouldn't really be trying to run out and replace it, especially not at this price point if it's that nice. Let's go on to the design and construction of the IEM. So this is molded resin with these gorgeous mother of pearl rose gold caps. Inside you can see the driver. We have the 2 vent holes, and this mirrors, pull it out from over here, the original Wan'er 2 vent holes cap. One difference I did notice is if I put them like that, bring it up nice and close, you can see that the Studio Edition driver sits higher up in the shell than on the regular Wan'er. Also, take note of those nozzles. We'll talk about that in a second. I know that people had build quality concerns with the original Wan'er. I've seen people tear the 2-pin connector off or crack the resin near here. I don't think they've done too much to mitigate the durability here. If you look, there's a little structure internal on both of those that strengthens the 2-pin connector. But I've definitely seen pictures of these broken. I have no reason to believe that these will be any more durable. But, I mean, they're super cheap. And if you take care of them, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't last you a decent time. So, specifications. I'm going to throw the specs up here on the screen. These are single 10mm dynamic drivers. Tangzu claims that these are an improved, updated version of the driver in the original. As far as impedance sensitivity goes, these will basically run out of any phone or laptop just fine. No real need for an external amp. They're super lightweight. The only issue I ran into as far as specifications goes is, again, the nozzle that I was talking about earlier. These are short, wide nozzles. And the only reason that was an issue for me is that my preferred ear tips, which are SpinFit CP145s, wouldn't stay on. They would come off the nozzle and stay in my ears 2 or 3 times. It's not really an huge issue, especially if you're going to use the stock ear tips. The stock ear tips are on there really, really well, and they will not get stuck behind your ears. But if I was going to use my spin fits on these, I'd probably size down to a CP100 just so it grips the nozzle better. So if you're going to be shopping for aftermarket ear tips, keep the nozzle measurements that I put on screen in mind if you're going to upgrade the tips. As far as overall looks go, I'm going to pull up the cool wall. I like these. I like both the white and the black. I personally went for the white because I had a lot of black in my collection, as I mentioned in the unboxing video. But I like them a lot. I think they're pretty cool looking. I'm going to go ahead and put them in cool. But my taste in fashion is, let's say, questionable at best. So I've called in the Council of Ladies to get their opinion. So first question I asked them was, are these pretty? I got 3 votes for yes, they're pretty, 1 vote for no, they're not, and 1 vote for they're whatever. I asked them, if you had a friend wearing these, would you say that they looked good? Would you compliment them on them? I had 4 votes for yes, I would, and I had 1 vote for no, I wouldn't. As far as what color they would pick, I had 3 votes for white and 2 votes for either one is fine. Comments from the ladies include, quote, they look like they're from a sci-fi movie, quote, these are very attention-grabbing, and they look kind of cheap. So that's their opinion on those. We'll move on to comfort. I didn't have too many comfort issues with these. They fit pretty well. I was able to wear them for a 4+ hour gaming session with no problems. Only real issue I had as far as comfort goes was the tip coming off in my ears, I mentioned, but again, that's more my fault for using aftermarket tips than the nozzle's fault. That being said, if you prefer a deeper fit, this nozzle's pretty short, and I think that might be a problem for you. You might have to get an ear tip like a spin fit or something that extends the top a bit to get a deeper fit, but as long as you keep the measurements in mind, it shouldn't really be a problem. I have huge ears, but I asked my wife what she thought of these, and she gave them her good old tiny ears test. In her words, these pass. They fit her special eensy-weensy ear tips. They're small, light. The seal didn't break when she was laughing, singing along, talking. And yeah, other larger IEMs, the seal breaks really easily. Some don't fit her ear tips, and these fit perfectly for her. So if you have small ears, as long as you have the right ear tips, these should be just great. All right, well, let's move on to the most important part of any IEM review. How good do these sound? In a word, very. The bass is solid. Sub-bass extension is right off the end. It's very well done. Mid-bass is punchy, tight, doesn't intrude into the mids. Bass is very clean over the whole range. Kick drum from Earth, Wind & Fire's Let's Groove feels authoritative. It feels solid. All of the bass drops from Welcome to Houston are there. In my opinion, they're missing a bit of impact, some rumbliness. That's how I would describe the bass for this set overall, is the bass quality is excellent, but for my personal taste, the bass quantity is lacking just a bit. I want a little bit more knock, if you will. Moving on to the mids, they're clean, they're clear, they're very well done. JK's vocals and all of the instruments that are doing things in Virtual Insanity by Jamiroquai, no tonal issues, more importantly, no masking issues, so one instrument doesn't cover up details in another. You can point out everything separately. This is especially important, in my opinion, for things like jazz or orchestral tracks or big band. Rhapsody in Blue sounds super clean on these. Nothing wrong with the mids at all, no real complaints. Going to the upper mids and the treble, again, more of the same, very, very good. I threw a whole bunch of female artists at these. Listen to Heart, Blondie, Yoasobi, Trisale, Connie Francis, Aretha Franklin. Every single one sounded correct. No piercing harmonics, no off tonalities in the high harmonics, no tonal imbalances, no huskiness caused by tuning abnormalities. All great as far as female vocals are concerned. As far as treble goes, cymbal strikes and bells, no sibilance problems, decay is natural. The harmonics die off when I expect them to. They're not overly washy. One of the things I do to test treble fatigue is I play Pierre Henry's Psych Rock. There's some very, very harsh early electric tones in that song. They weren't painful. They weren't harsh. They were just fine on these. The treble overall is excellent. As far as technicalities go, for the price, this is a pretty decent set. The echo at the beginning of Steely Dan's Black Cow is there, only in the left ear, but you typically only hear it in the right ear for a very bass-heavy set. There isn't a ton of rumble in some of the bass drops, but again, a lot of people prefer it that way. I personally don't, but some people will love the reduced bass presentation on this. Finger slides on fretboards, violin bows bouncing on strings, that's all there. Cymbals have good stick definition. You can tell when someone's striking the bell versus striking the outer edge. Hi-hats have good feel. Overall, as far as technicalities go, it's not mind-blowing, but you're not missing anything either. These are just right for the price, I would say. These are nice, solid drivers. As far as Soundstage is concerned, my go-to test track is Mediterranean Sundance. Paco de Lucia should be in the left, Al Di Meola in the right, and they should be just far away enough that the audience sits in the middle and doesn't make anything feel super claustrophobic, and these come through for that. Perceived 3D soundstage on these is, I would say, average for an IEM. I played George Benson's Affirmation, the live version. I could pinpoint a band member here or there in the mix, but overall, everything was living in my head. Again, average for an IEM. Stereo separation is good. Soundstage, nothing special, but again, at this price point, pretty average. So, let's talk about some competition. Question everyone's dying to know, has probably been screaming at me since the video started. Are they better than the OGs? It depends. It depends on what you want when you listen to your library. To my ear, the Wan'er are a very vocal forward set with a bit of a bass boost. They don't really have the top-end detail that I typically like in an IEM, but they make up for that with a certain vocal centricness for certain female vocals. Certain songs, specifically J-pop and K-pop, absolutely shine when I listen through these. By comparison, the studios are much more neutral. You give up some of the bass, these are a bit boosted, you give up that vocal forward, vocal centric nature, and in return, you get a much smoother, and in my opinion, more natural and detailed treble. The studios are better if you want neutral sound presentation with not a ton of extra bass, just a smidge extra bass. The originals are better if you want a vocal focused set specifically for female vocals, J-pop, K-pop, and all that. I'm not saying the vocals and mid-range presentation on this are bad. They're very, very good. It's just that these have that female vocal party piece that makes them stand out a bit. In fact, these reminded me an awful lot of, bring in a new challenger here, the Moondrop Chew 2. To my ears, these two are very tonally close as far as bass and, sorry, not bass, as far as treble and mid-range goes. The Chew 2 has much more bass than the studio, a tiny bit more than the original, but definitely more than the studio. If you like the Chew 2, but you think that they just have too much bass, these are the ones for you. You should definitely go pick up a studio. For me personally, these kind of live in no man's land as far as these three are concerned. If I'm going to listen to J-pop, K-pop, other female artists, grab the Wan'ers, go for a nice listening session, jam out. The whole rest of my library, I'll probably listen to the Chews. The vocal presentation, the mid-range, the treble, same as this, but with that extra bass rumble and punch that I tend to really like. Plus, I prefer this cable. It just feels nicer to my hands. There's no chin cinch, but these are all metal versus the plastic on the Wan'er Studios, and it uses the conventional 2-pin rather than the QDC. So if you wanted to spend 3 or 4 times the cost of the IEM on a new cable, you could. All right, so that being said, it's time to put these on my Audio Amigo Arbitrary rating scale. As I mentioned earlier, I personally wish these had a bit more bass. The mids and treble are to my liking, but they also don't do anything that makes them stand out to me in a positive or negative way. These are good IEMs. They sound great. They don't do anything wrong, but I don't get a vibe from the Wan'er Studios. They're very clean, very well tuned, very polite, but there isn't a song or genre that I played that made me go, oh wow, okay, this is what makes these special. And because of that, I'm going to put these in the good tier. The good tier is not a bad place to be. I know a bunch of folks are sitting here going, oh, Chew 2 with less bass, Wan'er with less of a vocal focus, give me these. For me, they're nothing too special. Overall, would I recommend these? Absolutely I would. They're well tuned, they're very balanced, they come with good accessories, you get a nice set of tips, you get the cool cleaning cloth, they come in a gorgeous box, they're at a great price. $21 is right where they needed to be in my opinion. They're not too expensive, they're not too cheap. If you thought that the Chew and the Wan'er were too bassy, these are probably one of the best ways you can go. Look into these for sure. They look great, sound great, and you know that in a month or two they're going to be on sale for less than 20 bucks and maybe even closer to 10, just like the Wan'ers on AliExpress. So maybe look into that. But that's going to do it for me today. If there's a budget set that you'd like to see get the Thrifty Tunes treatment, let me know down in the comments. Thank you all so much for your support. I hope you enjoyed the video. This has been Omar with AudioAmigoReviews, and I will catch you all next time.